How'd you like to listen to .NET Rocks with no ads? Easy. Become a patron. For just $5 a month, you get access to a private RSS feed where all the shows have no ads. $20 a month will get you that and a special .NET Rocks patron mug. Sign up now at patreon.netrocks.com.
Hey, Carl and Richard here with your 2024 NDC schedule.
We'll be at as many NDC conferences as possible this year, and you should consider attending no matter what. The Copenhagen Developers Festival happens August 26th through the 30th. Early bird discount ends April 26th. Tickets at cphdevfest.com.
NDC Porto is happening October 14th through the 18th. The early bird discount ends June 14th. Tickets at ndcporto.com.
And we'll see you there, we hope.
Hey, welcome back to .NET Rocks. I'm Carl Franklin.
And I'm Richard Campbell.
We are past the 1900 mark here, post-build.
Yeah.
And,
we're also, this is like the one studio show we're doing in between a whole bunch of in-person shows.
Right. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're going to be at NDC Oslo very soon. And really good feedback from show 1900 with Scott Hanselman. People really love that.
Yeah, we had some fun there, that was your idea too. To
surprise him with the quiz,
surprise him with the clips, and he got 100%. It's ridiculous,
right? I know. That's Scott. All right, let's roll the crazy music.
All right, man, what do you got?
Well, for Better Know Framework today, I don't have anything about the framework, but
okay.
But on my other show, Security This Week, we found a hack, a vulnerability in a TP-Link gaming router.
Nice.
That exposes users to remote code attacks. If you look at this thing, I'm thinking, the first thing I thought was, what's the difference between a gaming router and a line of business router? And the gaming router has more blinky lights and it costs more.
Yeah, and cool colors and things too. But
yeah, it also prioritizes with QoS. It prioritizes the game packets.
Yeah, and they tend to use as many channels as they can. You pay a premium for these things.
Yeah, exactly. But it also kind of looks like it could take off. Like it's like a drone of some kind.
Yeah. It's the idea that your router is a statement piece for your coffee table. I don't know.
It's like 9 prongs sticking up out of it with red stripes on it.
Yeah. They're antennas.
Yeah. All right. So people who know security CVEs, which are, threats or reports of problems, know that there's a CVSS score with them from 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
And 10 is, oh my God, this is horrible. It's the worst possible thing, right? But that score is only if you have been attacked.
Where you're
how bad is it?
Exposed to this router, I presume.
Well, yeah, if somebody has attacked the router and hacked it, right? It's bad. Like remote code execution is bad. But we at Security This Week have started coming up with how likely are we to be exposed to this number? So it's called like a contagion factor or something like that,
right? Which
is not part of this number.
No.
So we went through the problems, and first of all, you have to be rebooting. It has to have just booted up. So if your power goes off, your power comes back on, or you turn it off and turn it back on. Right in that boot up sequence, that's where you're vulnerable. And then certain ports have to be open, right?
Right.
And then you're vulnerable to this attack. And my question was, well, does the attack have to happen from inside the firewall or also outside? And the answer is outside. It's exposed to the internet, which makes you vulnerable in those seconds when it's booting up. And if somebody knows about that and sees it and connects to it and sends you the special blow up commands, they will get remote code access.
Right.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it just means that and you've got to know there's some script kiddies running that call continuously, just walking back and forth across IP addresses, right?
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, this is a kind of a big deal, and I wanted to share it with people. So
Yeah, you know what? Patch your routers.
patch everything regularly.
Patch all the things. On Run As a little while back, I did a show with Sammy Leho, who's one of the security folks that scares the snot out of me on a regular basis. and he talked about the fact that with multi-factor authentication and current security password technology, phishing has stopped being the primary exploit path. Unpatched gear is now the primary exploit path. And so we had a whole conversation about, most IT folks want to test before they update. And so often it takes a week or two before you get updates onto your machines. It's like, that's now a higher risk than the risk of an outage by applying the patch immediately and then figuring out if it's a problem.
Yeah. And I know that we're going to be talking to Veronika about AI, but AI is now in the game of hacking, searching for vulnerabilities as soon as they're reported and immediately going out and trying to exploit them.
Generate an exploit.
Exploit.
It speaks to how we've got to release this information more carefully too.
Yes.
Like more time to patch. But yeah, it's an interesting time, isn't it?
It's an interesting time. It's, it's cat and mouse, but the sooner you patch, the safer you are.
Well, it's also, there are professionals now. Like these folks are not hacking for fun. They hack for money. And then, so make sure they don't make any money.
Right. All right. Who's talking to us today, Richard?
Grabbed a comment off of show 1874, which we did back of November 23 with our friend Vishwas, talking about his applications of large language models. Vishwas is always good for that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
When you think about, we recorded that show early November of 23. So he already had code out in the field. And that's what I love about Vishwas. Is like, he calls me when he has something real to show. He's not speculating. It's like, hey, let me talk about this project we have out in the field. And this was an app that he was working with, where the large language model was understanding text coming in from various sources. It was almost a kind of sentiment analyzer, but more sophisticated by far. And we've got a hilarious comment here that I had to read from Xyrene, I presume is an acronym or a pseudonym, just a few months ago. And actually, he's just quoting me. All he says is, "You don't ask a stochastic parrot for facts. That's not what it's for." Yeah.
That's pretty good. Stochastic parrot.
Pretty easy for me to agree with myself. So Zyron, thank you so much for your comment, and a copy of Music Code By is on its way to you. And if you'd like a copy of Music Code By, write a comment on the website at .netrocks.com or on the Facebooks. We publish every show there. And if you comment there and I read it on the show, we'll send you a copy of Music Code By.
And also you can follow us on Twitter. We've been on there, or X-Twitter as I'm calling it now. We've been there forever, but the cool kids are hanging out on Mastodon. I'm at Carl Franklin at techhub.social.
And I'm Rich Campbell at mastodon.social.
Yeah, send us a toot. Those are other ways that you could get yourself a free copy of Music to Code By. All right, well, let's bring on our esteemed guest, software engineer by day and AI enthusiast by night. Veronika Kolesnikova has extensive experience in full-stack development using C#, .NET, Java, and TypeScript, Azure, and AWS clouds. Public speaker, hackathon volunteer, co-organizer of Boston Azure User Group, and mentor. She's curious about mobile and augmented reality. Veronika holds a master's degree in information technology. She also likes dancing, traveling, and practicing aerial yoga in her free time. Aerial yoga. Suspended from a helicopter, right?
Of course.
I had not heard of aerial yoga for forever. And like in the past 2 months, I've thought you're like the third person. Like, what's going on? Like, as if yoga wasn't hard enough. Now you're hanging in the air while you do it?
And is it hot or cold, Ariel?
Depends. Yeah, if I practice it in Florida, then it's still a little hot. But here in Massachusetts, it's sometimes cold.
Right.
Yeah. It's just starting to get hot now.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind in the world of AI, Veronika?
Everything is changing so fast. Every day I feel like I'm behind, although I'm reading the news. I'm trying to connect to people online, but still I feel like I'm always behind. There is something new happening all the time.
Yep. I feel the same way.
It's not a bad thing, like really, we don't get sprints like this all that often, right? With a new technology. Like I was explaining it to some high school students last week or earlier this week even. I said, look, the scientists come up with a new material and then the engineers take the new material and they try stuff with it. What you're seeing right now is the science has been done. Generative AI is where it's going to be, and the engineers are running with it now. And we're just going to make some stuff, and some of that stuff will be bad, and some of it'll be pretty useful.
Yeah. A lot happened actually recently with generative AI and large language models. And now I feel like there is another trend coming with small language models.
Yeah. How do you define the difference between a large language model and a small language model?
The size.
Can you put numbers around that? Is that like a number of parameters? Is it actually like the physical data size?
Yeah, the data size is the major factor there. Lots of those small language models you can actually put to a mobile device. So if you create a mobile application, it can run on the device, which is really cool.
That seems to be the goal, is I want to run this on a phone.
That's debatable.
Oh. Yeah. That want is the struggle word. Like, I don't know that I want to run this on the phone, but it seems to be what they're offering us.
Isn't the context of a small language model usually smaller, more focused on a particular area? Is that the story? Like, you wouldn't ask a small language model the current price of a foot-long tuna at Subway would be, right?
Yes, exactly. So large language models, they were trained on more data. That's why they're large, and they're more, they know more about stuff. And then small language models, they're more focused on specific areas.
Yeah. Although I don't think I'd ask any of them what the price of a sub sandwich was, because that's a fact and they're not good at facts.
Yeah, they're not, are they?
Yeah, you have to use RAG for that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We got to be acronym police. RAG is?
Retrieval Augmented Generation.
There we go. It's such the terms we have to live with now.
Did you see any of the keynotes or the sessions from Build about Microsoft announcements around their AI stuff?
Yeah. I was following online. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to Seattle this time around, but they released a lot of stuff. I'm glad that they're focusing not only on being up to date and up to speed, they're partnering a lot with OpenAI, and I think it took them basically a week to include GPT-4o into their offerings as well for Azure OpenAI. But also they're focusing on responsible AI, which is very important.
That impressed me. I mean, I don't know how responsible or secure it is, but the fact that they have this security layer between you and the models and the outputs and inputs makes me feel sleep a little bit better at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there was a really interesting way that they presented it with the AI studio, where you know, on one hand, it was like, hey, we're here to protect you, but there's also a sense of we're here to also protect people from you too.
Right.
Like, I don't know how a bad actor could use Microsoft's AI tools and not have the tool essentially stop them, saying, this is not an appropriate use. Like, that to me, you know, relieved me, because we've been, you know, we talk about OpenAI and this whole idea of an open model. It's like, do we really want these tools out in the wild where anybody can do anything with them?
Yeah. Same as open source projects.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody here is probably old enough to remember the heyday of SQL injection attacks, which, by the way, are still the number one vulnerability in software. SQL injection attacks, number one. So if you think about what a SQL injection attack is, you know, you have a field on a web form that you're filling in, and because you're smart and you know what the database is, you can embed SQL commands right in that data, and assuming that the back-end code just concatenates all of those inputs together without sanitizing them or without checking them, and sends it as a query to the database, therein lies the problem, right? So think about in the context of AI, even the APIs, like the OpenAI APIs, take a sentence. It's text, right? So now we have prompt injection attacks. It's like a whole new level of threat. So they have to be very diligent about sanitizing and discovering ways that people are trying to either hack into the system, remote code execution, or injecting and getting into the data model or something like that, or just asking stupid questions or dangerous questions. So it's really good that they have this filter.
Yes, people come in with creative ways to break the system.
Yeah.
And now Microsoft is that in the jailbreak detection, which is very good. But it's always a cat and mouse who is more creative. People who creating those jailbreaks, or people who are trying to catch them.
Yeah. And I tend to bat on the white hats just because there's a lot of them and they're pretty skilled and they don't have to hide. They get to share each other's information and collaborate with each other, where the bad guys have to stay in the shadows.
All right. Well, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about some positive things in the changes in OpenAI, maybe in particular, or AI in general. What do you see out there?
Yeah, so they just released that new model, GPT-4o, which looks like it can do everything. It can analyze visual content, speech, and text, all from one place, basically. I remember the days when we had to use different APIs in order to process all kinds of information. But now it's not the case, which is very convenient.
Those days were like a few months ago, but and this is what they mean when they say multimodal, right? That it doesn't matter whether it's text or images, or it can handle it.
Yes.
Okay. How are you? I mean, 4o seems niche also in the sense that it's kind of a client. I don't know how I would embed this in my apps.
Yeah, you can create all kinds of applications with it, all kinds of assistants, or support tool. I know some people, they're struggling with creation of graphs, or maybe processing information from graphs. And by just connecting GPT-4o to application like that, it's easier for people to maybe read the graphs, maybe create new ones based on the data that they have. That's a use case that I was thinking about right away, because I remember some of our...
And we are talking about like the Excel style graphs, like graphs an overloaded term these days too.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. So take a pie chart. By the way, never use a pie chart. You send it to 4o and ask it to analyze that. Like, what do you get from this? What would be a better way to represent this data? Because that's a great problem.
Yeah, I'm sure you can do that. And I know that some of project managers, they have to create all kinds of graphs pretty much every day, and they have to process a lot of data. But now they have that really good support from GPT-4o.
Interesting. Yeah. I've been looking at these tools for a while now as good summarizers. It's funny to think in terms of graphs are supposed to make it easier to read data, but I'm in the same situation as a lot of those managers. I get 20 pages of visualizations of information where I'm like, how do I summarize, get this down to one thing, to be able to push it through a tool to say, what's the one page I should look at, or, what's the sum of all of that, and still have it being meaningful. That's an interesting problem, because I've never had a tool that could actually take a bunch of graphs and give you a single description. Now, have you taken this out for a spin? Like, have you tried doing that?
I tried to play with it a little bit. I unfortunately didn't have enough time to actually test it really well. But small scenarios, something that they showed at the presentation that OpenAI did a couple of weeks ago, that looked like it worked. I'm sure there are some downsides too. Like I saw people complaining online that it's a little slower than GPT-4 and GPT-4 Vision. But there are always ups and downs and everything.
It also was brand new, so everybody's playing with it at the same time. I'm sure it's under a lot of load.
Yeah.
So I took it for a spin. Of course, I have ChatGPT-4o in a browser, and I don't see any speech or anything. I know I've used my voice to communicate with ChatGPT-4 on my iPhone version before 4o came out, and you can even attach pictures and upload them. So I don't really know, and I don't see any like speech things or anything different in the interface on the web anyway for ChatGPT 4o than I did for 4. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I think for end users, the difference is maybe unnoticeable, as you said, but behind the scene, I think that they just had to convert different inputs into text and then pass it to the model.
Mm-hmm.
So the API has endpoints now that accept streams of audio and video, etc.
Yeah. So in theory, it should be faster because we are eliminating that conversion part of it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check my phone version, but I didn't see anything in that either that was any different.
Yeah, I guess this is about digging into the API enough to see how the different sources could be fed to it, and then what it will return. I mean, I've always had it return as text, right? Like summarize this additional information, but I've never tried to have it return as like, draw me a better graph like that. Because that also seems very precise for a tool that its outputs don't tend to be that precise.
So in the mobile app, which I updated so it supports 4o, now you have, a camera, you have, select a file, you have select an image, you have a microphone, and you have headphones, which I'm thinking is going to be, speech output. So that's good. The web version, however, no different. And I couldn't find anything in the settings to enable it either. So then, did my homework.
Limitation on the web page.
Yeah, we'll see. I even asked ChatGPT, right? How can I use speech to interact with ChatGPT 4o? And it says, to use speech to interact with GPT 4o, you need to utilize voice input with voice recognition software or voice input on web browsers like Google Chrome or speech to text APIs, right? So it really doesn't offer anything at the app level.
It sure sounds like Microsoft documentation too, right? Like,
yeah,
it's an answer, but not actually useful.
Not very helpful. Maybe I'm missing something. If I am, somebody email me, please. Let me know how this works.
Obviously, all the demos I've seen, it's got that Her vibe, the movie. And even to the point where Scarlett Johansson, I believe, is suing. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we going down this path?
I know. It's so stupid.
I'm trying to get this out of science. People not think about this as science fiction and worry about the facts.
And they're not helping.
Yeah, they're really not helping.
Actually, Sam Altman posted on X Twitter saying Her a couple of days after the release. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a copyrighted term there, Sam, right? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's not Scarlett's voice, but it's someone who sounds like Scarlett's voice.
Yeah. It's very, very close. And again, it's like, why would you do that? ScarJo is kind of famous for being willing to take on anyone. She took on Disney, for crying out loud, and won.
Yeah.
And then still gets to work there. Like, who does that? Anyway, I wish they would stay away from the science fiction parts, just because I think it's bad for people to get caught up in the non-facts. I mean, it's good for fundraising, just because, okay, if you want to deceive investors, great, but try not to deceive regular people. It's not appropriate. Hey, we should break for a moment for this very important message.
Hey there, this is Jeff Fritz, the Purple Blazer guy from Microsoft, letting you in on a little secret about my friend Carl Franklin. You know, the guy who started .NET Rocks, the first podcast about .NET way back in 2002. The guy who's been teaching Blazor on YouTube since 2020. Yeah, that Carl Franklin. Well, Carl has joined up with Code in a Castle to teach a week-long hands-on Blazor class this September. And get this, it's at a castle/villa in Tuscany. It's sort of a luxury vacation with Blazor learning built in. He's calling it the Blazor Master Class. You'll learn Blazor from the ground up, finishing the week with the ability to build and deploy Blazor applications. Now, Carl did this class last year, and it was a huge success. You can watch the awesome video from 2023 on the website, which I'll share in just a few seconds. Since the training happens for only 4 hours in the morning over 6 days, you can bring your significant other with you, and you should. This part of Italy is absolutely beautiful. There's so much to see and do. And Larry and Marco from Code in a Castle are organizing daily activities both at the castle and in the area. The castle is in the Maremma, a less touristy region of Tuscany, offering both classic Tuscan hill country as well as easy access to the Etruscan Riviera with sublime local food, wine, and olive oil around every corner. Breakfast is included every day. There will be 2 communal dinners at the castle bookending the experience, and most other meals and all activities are included. And did I mention you'll learn Blazor in person from Carl Franklin? Space is limited, and for good reason. This is a quality training experience in a beautiful setting. Go to codeinacastle.com/Blazor2024. That's BLAZOR 2024 to take advantage of this amazing opportunity to join Carl in Tuscany for an unforgettable week of La Dolce Vita while advancing your programming skills in this important new technology.
You know, it's common for a business application to contain 15% repetitive code just because of metaprogramming limitations in the C# language. Why write boilerplate manually when a machine could generate it for you? Enter MetaLlama, the code generation and verification toolkit for C#. Their C# to C# template language is simply amazing. Logging, caching, memento, observable. If it's repetitive, MetaLlama can automate it. Visit metallama.net today and learn to automate your code patterns with their free edition. Remember, it's MetaLlama with one L. METALAMA.net.
And we're back. It's .NET Rocks. I'm Richard Campbell. That's Carl Franklin.
Hey.
Talking to our friend Veronika a bit about the new GPT-4o. And that's a O as an omni, not 0, because why would that be confusing?
And just a reminder, if you don't want to hear any ads, you can be a patron. For $5 a month, you can get an ad-free feed. Go to patreon.netrocks.com. All right.
Awesome.
Where were we? We were talking about the things that you think are interesting that are coming up here and that you've played around with. Is there something that you have not yet seen that holds a promise that you think is really, really valuable for people, not just developers?
That's a good question. I feel like those companies that are so creative, OpenAI, and then Microsoft joined them, Google, AWS are trying to catch up. Now Elon Musk with XAI, which I heard a lot about, but I haven't tested it or I haven't touched it actually. So there are new opportunities every day and new functionality. I feel like they're improving of something like Copilot for developers, for example. It is pretty good now, but there are still a lot of opportunities for improving it and making it better. I'm always laughing with my colleagues. We got access to Copilot a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, I'm always fascinated how it tries to fill out like text. So if you type in text like name of your variable, and it's trying to fill it for you, or name of a Lambda function, for example, or connection string, and
your screen fills up with gray letters.
Yeah. But I'm like, is it useful? I don't want it to fill out everything. I don't need it to.
Apparently you can turn that feature off if you don't want it constantly suggesting things. If you want to just read your comments and generate code, you can do that too. I find that ChatGPT I use when I need more lines of code to generate than Copilot is going to do very easily. Copilot's really good, I think, for small algorithms, small blocks of code. But if I need some serious generation, I'll ask ChatGPT. So, but between those two, it really helps a lot. I saved hours just in the last day implementing some stuff that was really, really, case heavy, like switch heavy, like there's this, I don't want to go into details, but there's this class with like 400 fields in it that represent every piece of a CSV file. And, that's the way they wanted it coded. And so if I need to do anything with all of those things, it's a lot of repetitive code, and ChatGPT made short shrift of that. It was great.
Have you tried the Copilot Chat?
Copilot Chat.
The GitHub Copilot Chat.
So that's right, from Visual Studio. You can use that, right?
Yeah.
I have not.
And VS Code works there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's better about that than, say, using ChatGPT?
It's just convenient. You don't need to jump back and forth. You can also reference your code that you've already written, or specific files you wanted to reference as well.
Yeah. Okay.
There's so many GitHub Copilot products now, because there's also Copilot workspaces, not to be confused with workspaces, because why would anyone get that confused?
Yeah.
But I just got my beta access to it, and I haven't had time to really take this out for a spin, but boy, talk about an interesting collaboration tool. I think it's just to have more information available to you and to think project wise. Like I'm with you, Carl, little chunks of code, right? Like that seems to work just fine. I don't think about discussing with the tool the architecture of a project. No,
but you do need to, I find that with ChatGPT anyway, you need to give it just enough information so that it can, do stuff. So if I have something that requires, 400 cases in a switch, right? I do the first 10 and then there's an obvious pattern there. And I'll say, here, fill in the rest of these.
Go. Very intern-y, right? Let the intern do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I respect that. That's useful. It saves time. Less typos, maybe.
Right? No, it worked perfectly. It did exactly what I asked it to do. Yeah. Well, anyway.
I saw another example with GPT-4o when they just provided the diagram and then asked it to create code for that application. It wasn't like super complex application, but based on what they posted online, it worked.
Was it like a UML diagram?
Yeah, I think it was just simple, couple of boxes connected together, and then
flowchart. I saw that. I saw a Twitter post about that maybe a few months ago, but I never saw it in action. Never tried it. It's interesting idea.
Because I remember seeing that in early days of Azure, they had sort of a diagrammer you could use in the portal for laying out an app, and then it would generate like the network calls and VMs and things like that.
Remember Windows Workflow?
didn't write code. Like, it's interesting to actually, build that flow or draw out the flow and have it generate the code. And I've seen it go the other way where it's like, show me a flow chart of this code, which I think is super useful too, because I hate drawing flow charts and often I end up writing a bunch of code. It's like, what have I done? The fact that it could tell you that.
That should be a tool in Visual Studio. Do you remember Windows Workflow Foundation?
Briefly.
I'm trying to forget, but it seemed awfully cumbersome.
Without, it was a 1.0 product. It came out with .NET 3. It's actually part of the fallout of Longhorn, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And I like the idea. They were trying to make a generalized workflow engine. It's just, A, that's a really hard problem. B, it was tainted with the disaster that was Longhorn.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still getting over it.
But now, apparently, maybe you could use a tool like Visio to create a diagram, which includes classes and variables and stuff, and just say, here, build this.
Yeah.
Build a framework for you. That's what I want, really. I don't want the whole application. I just want help getting started with stuff that's going to be several types, several classes and lists and things, and, implement a custom list that overrides the methods for adding and deleting and updating and all that stuff. Things like that. Stuff that I really don't want to write. I like your word, Richard, the intern. It's like, here, write this code.
Let the intern finish it.
Yeah.
Do you see these tools starting to take lead on projects, Veronika? Like, is this really a thing? Because, we've had folks talk that way too. It's like, when are we the intern? And the tool is now, leading.
Yeah. I don't see it right now. Who knows? In a couple of years.
I don't know. I've read too many books that say, listen, there's no determinism in this software. Generative AI is good at some stuff, but that's not it. I mean, architecture as checklist, sure. It's like, hey, I want to you lay out an architecture, and now the tool's going to keep reminding you to fill in these bits. Like, have you done this part? And have you done that part? That's what they're talking about with workspaces, is like, now that the LLM is the nagging project manager saying, you said you'd get it done by this time, and you said you do these pieces. Like, it's making sure all the boxes are checked, which is kind of useful because I don't mind yelling at the automated PM.
Well, that's when you feel like the tool, right? I'm the tool.
This code created by a tool.
Yeah.
I know. It still seems like a partner for the most part, but we're only a year into this, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but it's really helpful. If I remember, it took me a lot of time to actually search for something online and get answers. Maybe I obviously don't remember all the functions ever, or like libraries. Yeah. So it was taking me a long time to find something specific. But now it's getting really easy with LLM and generative AI, whether you're using GPT or using GitHub Copilot, for example.
I like what Microsoft is promising with, your databases and all the stuff that's in your OneDrive and all the stuff that's in M365. It just becomes, vectorized. And so you can use natural language just to find things in your email, for example, or on Teams, just stuff that happened that you don't have to go searching for. Sort of like the search idea has just taken over AI in terms of, what Microsoft is doing anyway. But we can't stop. We can't leave here today without bringing up the elephant in the room, which is the R word, recall. So something that Microsoft announced that would be coming to Windows 11 soon, that's going to take pictures of your screen and keep them somewhere. I don't know, maybe in the cloud, and then let you, when you do these semantic searches about things that you were doing on a particular date and time, when was I talking about that blah, blah, blah? Like, it's going to use that to figure things out. But it's also, the privacy nuts are going crazy over this.
Yeah, except that this tool's existed for decades. Like there's nothing. There's been a widget for taking screenshots at regular intervals for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is different that people are flipping about it.
Well, is it?
If you don't like it, don't turn it on.
I was under the impression it's going to be on by default, which is different. And now you have to turn it off.
No, it's not.
No?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
You can also search through your history. So when you were taking screenshots, you still had to go and manually search for information or revert back to it. And now it's all automatic. It's going to be vectorized. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big difference now is we have really great tools for looking through all those screenshots to actually find what you were doing.
Yeah. And it is, I don't know. I was confused about the amount of data they're going to store.
Yeah.
Okay. I just found.
I mean, how many screenshots? How much space do all those screenshots take?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to use local storage. So that at least is good. It's not sending stuff up to the cloud where other people can mine it for information.
But is your local storage going to be filled up in a couple of days?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to that. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Or when do you let it purge, clean itself up too?
Yeah.
I mean, there's tiers here. There's recall for your own use.
Yeah.
As soon as you go down the M365 path, and we talk about this on Run As all the time, it's like now you're into the corporate surveillance side of things, which there's some legitimate parts to that. Like, I've spent enough time working with email administrators where it's like, listen, if you harass someone via company email, the company's liable.
Yeah.
So the company has an obligation to be aware of what's going on inside of email. That doesn't mean read everybody's email, but it does mean there are tools watching for harassment that then can lift it up to the point to say, hey, somebody else should be able to see this and do something about it. And so recall as a tool around productivity inside the company, that's interesting. But you would hope all this stuff is pretty tightly locked down. But you know what? I like having a dash cam on my car.
Yeah.
Because then I have an incontrovertible copy of what happened in my car, how fast I was going when that guy did cut in front of me, like all of those sorts of things. I kind of like this dash cam for my computer too. What was it I was doing?
Yeah.
When I had that problem.
If I have storage space, I'll use it. What I don't want is a dash cam that's sending my data to somewhere.
Yeah.
In the
I
cloud,
just don't know why you would think that, seeing how Microsoft's supposed to be the privacy guys.
Yeah. Well, it's not the case.
Yeah.
So I was concerned about that, but you're right. It's not the case.
And it does say prereqs are a Copilot Plus PC, of which I think there's like
none right now.
4.
Yeah, there's only beta versions or alpha versions. Yeah.
No, it's a particular machine. These are the ones they announced at Build.
Right.
That you can pre-order for June.
Yeah.
So by the time this show is out, in theory, you're going to be able to get one. But it's got a Copilot key, which is really important.
But it has something else too, right? Is there some sort of chippy stuff built in for AI that isn't on a Copilot Plus PC?
Well, the ones that they were announcing at Build were they were Windows on ARM.
Snapdragon, yeah.
Right. It's Snapdragon. And it's got a pretty seriously powerful MP unit, like 45 TOPS, which is the current measurement system, which is questionable, but okay.
Questionable
so it's got a fair bit
how?
of horsepower in it.
Meaning
Questionable just because like measuring the computational potential of a neural processor is an interesting problem. Like those are very academic benchmarks, and they're early stage benchmarks for new technologies. So, how will we be sure that number is meaningful in terms of actual use?
Are you going to order or buy one of these Snapdragon PCs, Veronika?
I wasn't planning to.
They're relatively reasonably priced. I think the mid-range unit was like less than $2,000 USD.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked me if we're going to do a .NET Rocks on Windows on ARM. I'm like, that's a pretty short show.
Yep.
Pretty sure you just,
yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Done.
We like that.
I don't even know if you'll need to recompile. I suspect the jitter will just go, oh, it's ARM. Let's go.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's funny, right? Like just, okay. Yeah. Not really a thing. The CLR team solved this long ago.
I want to see how successful it's going to be. It's not all Microsoft products, especially on hardware side, were successful.
That's right.
Well, they do have a bunch of third-party vendors, the Asus's and Lenovo's and so forth, are supposed to release machines too. And the Snapdragon chipset is impressive. Like, truly, that's pretty cool. But I'm with you. You know, generally speaking, the Surface units are the most expensive versions of this. Like, I'd be interested to see what an Asus or any of the other vendors actually can make from that gear. And what, how reasonable the price will be. Battery life should be epic, right? I mean, that's the whole thing with the ARM chipset is you should be able to not even need to charge every day anymore.
Right.
Which that would be nice.
So Veronika, what's in your inbox? What's coming up next for you?
So I am planning to actually play with all the stuff that was just announced at Build. Especially on responsible AI side. There are lots of new tools and it is really interesting. They showed them at Build. Looks like they're really cool, working really great. I want to see it for myself. Speaking wise, I am going to Kansas City in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's the show we're going to both be at.
Yeah,
I won't be there, but we could probably do something remote, Richard, if you want to.
That's fine. We're going to have so many shows between Build and Oslo and ADC Oslo. I think we're going to be well into August, so I wouldn't get too far ahead.
Well, that's really great.
What's the talk you're doing in Kansas City, Veronika?
So in Kansas City, I will be talking about responsible AI.
Good.
Thanks to Microsoft, I probably have to change half of my talk.
Absolutely.
Because before the talk was mostly focused on the responsible AI inside the machine learning studio that they have, and they still have it, the dashboard and the report, but now I feel like they're moving more towards generative AI analysis and all those content safety tools. So I do want to include more of it into my talk.
And is that part of Azure AI Studio? Where's a lot of those safety tools living?
Yeah, so I know they have a separate portal, but I prefer to access through the Azure AI Studio.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's a really great place to work.
Yeah.
And certainly you get to, you get a huge dashboard of choices, like how many models would you like to play with? Because there's way too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to using that studio as well, just to see what the heck you can do with it. The demos were impressive.
Yeah. But that security approach where it's going to keep you from accidentally making a bad thing as well. Or putting yourself in danger or inappropriate responses. Like, I don't know. I got to think the average dev is pretty freaked out about incorporating this as software when you have all these terrible stories of how badly it can go off the rails.
Right.
I came for tech support. I got told to get a divorce.
We need more positive stories.
Positive stories are boring, Carl.
No, they're not. They're amazing. I mean, I told one today, it's just a day in the life, Yeah. How about you listeners? Do you have any positive stories of interactions with AI or negative ones for that matter? But we want to hear the good news. Let us know. You know how to get in touch with us. Well, Veronika, thanks very much for spending the hour with us. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, see you in Kansas.
And we'll talk to you, dear listener, next time on .NET Rocks. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Plop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.
Got a transmitter banned by the FCC. Yes, I'm a